Before you spend another dollar on ads or try another growth tactics, I want you to watch this. Every week we speak to growth specialists and audit brands that are doing anywhere from 6 to 8 figures, and the same mistakes keep showing up. In this video, over the next few minutes, we're going to break down everything you need to know before you start scaling. As an e-commerce founder or operator, this is the video you should watch before trying to scale. Paul, I want us to kick this off. When brands come to us saying our store ads are not working, what would you usually find when you look inside of their account?
Usually when I look under the hood, there's almost always an automatic feature. It doesn't matter what kind of store you have. The type of advertising doesn't change too much. Advertising is very straightforward. If people are coming to your store, it means they clicked on a certain keyword or key type, broad active phrase, an advertisement, whatever, doesn't matter. They're at your store. The fact that you couldn't convert them from your store to add to cart or purchase, that means the problem is typically your store. Now, advertising can improve. We can narrow down which keywords are more profitable, have a lower bid, etc. But in the end, your store needs to be able to convert. And that's usually where the problem is.
Talk to me, based on your experience, what are the biggest store level issues that are quietly killing performance, even when the traffic is still very good?
It differs on the type of store. If we're talking about an e-commerce store, typically your homepage doesn't convert too often, but you need to make sure the bounce rate is low by offering them exactly why they clicked on this ad. For instance, if they clicked on an ad for, I don't know, coffee mugs, and they come to your store and they see kitchen knives. Well, that's not exactly what they're looking for, is it? Now, you could be a bit more dynamic about it. Like you could try to show everything on your homepage, but it usually ends up being really cluttered. So you need that laser-like focus. The keyword type of ad needs to match what's on your homepage, and it needs to be attractive enough that people stay. You don't want to hit them with a wall of text. You want to have a good combination of text, infographics, etc. to draw them in. On Amazon, for that brand store, it's slightly different. They are already shopping and they're already on a marketplace. You need to make sure they're able to buy immediately. So you need to have those add to cart buttons. Right, that's the big difference there.
Let's talk about percentage. What percentage of revenue should a brand be seeing from their brand store, whether they're on Shopify, Amazon, or WooCommerce?
On Amazon, what you're trying to look for, and Amazon's a little bit easier. The store layout is very well established in what is the best practice. You have a main image banner at the top telling people why they've come here, what the brand is, and then you immediately start showing the products arrayed in a grid. So there's add to cart buttons. Typically for Amazon, I would say at least 30% of your brand store revenue should come from the homepage. Usually it's the vast majority. It only goes beyond 30% or even goes lower than 30% if you have a huge catalog. And people need to click multiple times to find the right product. But typically, no. You want all your products, your best sellers, at the top, above the fold. On a website, it's a little bit different. On a website, your add to cart ratio for your homepage is typically only in single digits. You want people to browse around. The more times people click on a website, the more likely they are to purchase. But you don't want to go above 3 clicks. So within 3 clicks, they should be able to find the product they want and add it to cart.
Is there any situation where you've seen a brand make a mistake, which may seem very small, but it ends up costing them a huge amount of revenue? Have you ever come across something like that in the auditing process?
Overfixating on something, trying to maybe throw more money at a certain problem that might have nothing to do with the underlying issue is usually a big mistake that I see, is where it's just like sometimes you need to let go of the reins and let someone who's maybe a bit more experienced handle it, instead of trying to control it.
Talk to me about any hidden opportunity that you may have found, maybe in the process of an audit, probably an opportunity that was completely overlooked, but turned out to be something really substantial.
We initially, or the business owner was thinking about, was how well his product would do on TikTok. So we started taking that on. And once, we got a good understanding of it, it started taking off. But even before that, it was like we really overlooked that while this could be something that has that TikTok ability or TikTok potential, it's really important to sometimes explore those other channels, other routes that you might not expect to take.
So after all of the audits you've done, what would you say are like the top 3 things you believe every founder should check if their growth has stalled? What would you say 3 things could be, like a checklist or something, some place where they start if they want to scale their growth further?
A lot of people overfixate on things that they don't know that that's the actual underlying issue. Is if you go with a team of 20-ish people that are well studied and experienced in the areas that they're focused on, then you're much better off than doing several full-time jobs on your own, or which is kind of an approach where people will say, hey, I'm going to save money and do this. But you think about the hours that you put in, and if you calculate that at an hourly rate, how much would you get paid as a CEO of your level? It is kind of expensive how much sometimes it is a bit more cost effective to just hand things off to someone you know are going to make very little mistakes on those accounts.
So lever number one is conversion rate. Why is it one of the fastest ways for brands to increase revenue without spending more on ads?
I think there's a reason we put it at number one also is because it's the first thing you want to fix before you start spending any money on advertising. You want to make sure that any quality traffic that you're spending your hard-earned dollars on getting customers to that page, your product detail page, that needs to be optimized to convert. So whether that's on Amazon, on TikTok, on Shopify, on eBay, wherever that is, there needs to be some level of effort put into communicating the unique selling propositions that you have in your product, communicating some level of your brand story. What are you trying to deliver to your customer? And that needs to be communicated on your PDP.
The second growth lever is called average order value. What are some of the best ways brands can increase their AOV?
If you can increase the average order value where you want one of your products to start flying, but you don't want to put effort in all of your products in general, then you're going at it the wrong way sometimes, because you need to think about how your brand is going to grow in general. Maybe it's these products usually go really well together and you usually do. And so thinking about how you can promote one product to promote another one is a great way to increase average order value.
What's the next growth lever, and why do you think it's something that can possibly bring some income to the business if founders paying attention to it?
Retention and customer lifetime value is something that's often ignored. That's one thing where people usually leave some money on the table. When we work with our own client acquisition, we think about the overall lifetime value of a client. Just being completely honest, like, we are always in for the long run. We're in for growing partnerships and, helping a client with one platform, doing a good job on that. Then we can look into helping them on another platform, doing a good job on that. Eventually, these clients stay on for years, and we've, helped them on several platforms, and we're their dedicated marketing team for several PPC channels.
Biggest growth levers that most businesses and brand would ignore is actually looking into other platforms and expanding, whether it's from TikTok to Walmart to other channels beyond just Shopify and Amazon. Talk to me about this growth lever, and how do you think it really affects businesses if they don't look into it? Biggest growth levers that most businesses and brand would ignore is actually looking into other platforms and expanding, whether it's from TikTok to Walmart to other channels beyond just Shopify and Amazon. Talk to me about this growth lever, and how do you think it really affects businesses if they don't look into it?
A lot of people think kind of one-dimensionally on e-commerce with just one channel. Maybe they're just doing Amazon, or they're just selling on TikTok through their direct-to-consumer website, whatever the case is, or just doing retail. Diversifying gives you so many different options. Not only does it allow you to expand your revenue streams, but if one line becomes more expensive, then you've got a bunch of different channels you can go through. All of these channels, if you do have good brand awareness and the way that you've placed and presented yourself on these different channels, then they help each other as well. Having some kind of good omni-channel strategy is going to help your customer recognize you over here, and over here, and you look the same everywhere. Then it gives you more of an established brand look. I mean, we can go on and on about why omni-channel strategies make so much sense. But in the e-commerce world, if you're selling something online, you should be looking to expand as much as possible.
What actually makes an Amazon brand 10x faster than another? Is it because they have access to some secret data or some secret tools? What do you think?
Brands that move 10 times faster, they don't really wait for the perfect timing. They test, they launch, they optimize very quickly, and slower brands tend to over-discuss, over-approve, and over-analyze. For example, myself have talked to a lot of brands wherein we provided the audit. For me, speed compounds, and every week that you delay optimization or testing is a week your competitor is actually collecting more data than you. It's usually a decision-making problem. Speed is very important. Most brands, they already know the strategy that they need. They lack decisiveness. So we've audited accounts where the strategy was very obvious. They need better images, stronger SEO, cleaner PPC structure, but implementation was stuck in internal approvals or hesitations. Because they, just like what I said, they want to keep everyone aligned or they want to inform everyone in the team. So slow growth usually happens when founders want zero risk. But Amazon actually rewards momentum, how fast you are. The algorithm favors engagement, conversion improvements, and sales velocities. You can't really build that if every decision needs to take about 30 days or more.
How much does ego and attachment to products slow down innovation to the new launches?
More than people realize, more than brand owners realize. Founders are emotionally attached to certain SKUs. That's something that I noticed when I talked to them. And maybe it was because it's their first product, maybe it represents their brand story. Or another thing I see is that brands sometimes focus too much on one or more listings just because they're already getting a lot of sales from them. They prefer other listings, other SKUs, and they usually say that those are the priority and the other listings aren't as important because they're not driving as much revenue yet. But the problem is that those not priority listings can still be affecting overall performance. So fast brands treat products like asset, not as emotion, not as an emotion. So attachment kills objectivity, and objectivity is what drives speed. So there are a few silent killers that affects an Amazon brand's performance. So one thing is for inventory planning, talk out, destroy momentum and ranking. So we also have too many SKUs and variations. So complexity actually slows decision making because you have so many variations. We also have over-analysis, waiting for the perfect data instead of directional data. Another thing is no clear ownership. So when nobody is directly accountable for your Amazon's performance, then that's going to be a big issue. One common pattern we see is that brands expand into too many variations before actually optimizing the core SKU. And instead of scaling one winner, they dilute focus. Fast brands simplify, slow brands, they complicate things.
What is the first change we have to make internally? What would you say to them?
If you want to move or if you want to scale faster, then you really have to move quicker. Every second matters. That's what I tell the clients that I've talked to. If you take way too much time thinking about something and thinking about your next steps, then it's going to cost you a lot. You don't realize it today, but tomorrow that might take an effect on your business because the best brands always tend to improve all the time. If they have ways to improve right now, they would grab that chance. And if you don't take risks, then you're not going to improve your business. You're just going to stay where you are.
If you had to summarize the biggest challenges that e-commerce brands are facing right now in 2026, what would it be and why?
Okay, so honestly, I think the biggest challenge right now is growing without sacrificing profitability. A few years ago, it was all about driving more sales. Now it's about making sure those sales actually make money. As you know already, Amazon fees or platform fees keep going up. Ad costs are getting more expensive across platforms. Shipping and inventory costs, they're not getting any cheaper. Because of that, I think brands need to be a lot smarter with how they grow. If you're relying on just one channel, whether that's Amazon or your Shopify store, you're putting yourself at risk. For example, if you're already established on Amazon, maybe it makes sense to start making TikTok shop or Google ads. You should start testing them. Not because Amazon isn't working, but because the market is constantly changing. And having multiple channels gives you more opportunities to reach customers and less dependence on one platform. So the brands I see doing really well are the ones that stay flexible. They're always testing, they're always adapting and looking for new ways to acquire customers while building a brand that people actually comes back to. At the end of the day, growth in 2026 isn't just about selling more, it's about building a business that's profitable and resilient no matter how the market changes.
What's one thing that most founders are worrying about right now? And what's one thing you think they should be paying more attention to?
One thing e-commerce founders worry about too much is finding the perfect platform or constantly changing the latest algorithm changes. So the reality is that no single platform is going to solve a weak growth strategy. So instead of asking, should I only focus on Amazon or should I move everything to TikTok Shop? So founders should be thinking about how different channels can complement each other. For example, if you're already doing well on Amazon, it might make sense to expand into TikTok Shop to drive product discovery or invest in Google Ads to capture high intent buyers. So as the market evolves, diversifying your acquisition channels help reduce risk and unlock new growth opportunities. So what founders should be paying more attention to is building a sustainable growth engine. So that means improving customer lifetime value, creating a strong brand that people come back to, and developing an omni-channel strategy that doesn't rely on a single source of revenue. So the brands that will thrive over the next few years are the ones that embrace change, test new opportunities early, and build multiple paths to, for customers to discover and purchase their products.